This is Set Him Free, Chapter 11. Despite his exhaustion, Logan had only been able to remain asleep for a few hours. The morning light mocked him, signifying yet another day since Roma's disappearance. Time was running thinner with each second. He immediately sought out Patton, hoping he had found some sliver of information while he had been asleep. Logan made his way to the southern tower. It was one of the few places he could think of the messenger to be. He was indeed correct in his assumption, as he took note of the gentle light pooling from underneath Patton's cedar door. He knocked twice, not even having to speak before Patton's soft voice called back, "You can come in." Despite the normalcy of the greeting, the advisor could sense something off within Patton's voice. It lacked its usual cheer. Again, he didn't have to utter a word before the messenger held out the letter. "It's from Roman," he muttered, and Logan then understood what was wrong. He used every ounce of his self-control not to snatch the letter from Patton's hands and politely accepted the parchment instead. Eyes darting, he immersed himself in the looped writing. The words ran out too fast. Logan's brow furrowed, and he read it again and again. Each sentence cycled through his mind, but he couldn't find himself to believe the words painted on the page. Logan deduced that his own discontent was showing on his face, as Patton laid a gentle hand on his shoulder. When did you get this?" Patton's gaze trailed to the floor. "Yesterday morning, after you had gone to your room. I don't know exactly when it arrived, but it had to be sometime the night before." Logan ran his hands through his hair, promptly sitting down at Patton's desk. "I just don't understand. Why would he?" The curved letters echoed through his mind. "I have run away. Clearly, I am not needed. Do not come looking for me." "Are you sure this is the only thing he sent?" Patton's eyes brimmed with tears, capable of spilling over at any second. He was trying so desperately to remain composed. Logan could see it through his lips pulled tight and the slight tremble of his hands. "I checked. This is the only letter." Patton's voice trailed off. Logan gripped the envelope in his hands until his knuckles shone white. He read over it again, paying attention to every word. It possessed the same fanciful wording as Rowan would have used, and it bore the beautiful cursive of the prince's signature, yet there was a placid nature to it. Each phrase was just a little too hopeless to reflect the beliefs of Roman, the one who was usually the most daring out of the three of them. "We should tell Elena about the letter." Patton reached for the cream envelope, only for Logan to gently grab his wrist. "Not yet." "Logan, what?" "I may not be sure of many things, Patton, but for one thing I am certain." Logan folded his hands in his lap. "These cannot be the words of Roman." The world remained fuzzy as Roman awoke, yet the morning sunrise was still too bright for his liking. He pressed the heels of his palms into his eyes, trying to shake the fatigue from his veins, and marveled at the ability to raise his wrists. Had he gotten free? Had he really done it? No. It all came clear to him, what had happened so shortly before. His eyes drifted up from the floor, and Roman yelped as it became clear he was not the only person in the room. He pressed himself flat against the wall, his breathing still shallow from exhaustion as Virgil only offered him a temporary glance. There was a racing pulse in Roman's chest, attempting desperately to quell. Roman typed his hands into fists, squeezing as tight as he could to erase the distress from his mind. He managed to calm just enough to take in more of his surroundings. Virgil was wrapping something soft and white around his ankle. Roman wanted so desperately to jerk his leg away and kick back as hard as he could, though the dull throb that pulsated through it kept him from doing such things. Virgil seemed completely unbothered by Roman's arousing so far, and kept his eyes trained on the fabric bandages. Roman felt something stiff bracing his ankles. A splint, he realized. He must have sprained his ankle badly, especially if Virgil, of all people, was willingly aiding him. He shifted from the wall, straightening his back and releasing the morning tension from his muscles. The soft rustling of metal followed his movements, and only then did the prince take notice of his uninjured leg. He should have known. There wasn't even an inkling of volition in this place, not when Janus seemed to depend on the secrets Roman didn't know. The thin chain encircled his unharmed ankle, fortunately leaving his hands free, but still a large stretch from freedom. Janus wasn't happy, you know, when I told him what you did. I should hope so. Roman tried to keep the anger down in his voice. He wasn't sure if Virgil would continue to help him if he responded with malice. Have you always been this idiotic? Roman frowned. I could ask you the same question. You were the one who decided to leave me with the perfect tools to escape. Yeah, and look where that got you. Virgil pulled the bandage taut, and Roman grimaced. Tell me, were the gashes on your hands a part of your escape plan, or was it just another setback like the ankle you sprained? Roman lifted his palms from the wooden floor. They were indeed covered in slim cuts, something he had barely remembered from that night. He had been too frantic to care. Virgil reached for his hand, and Roman instinctively jerked away. The thief sighed. Do you want help or not? If you truly wanted to help me, you would let me go. You really don't understand this, do you? Virgil said, pinching the bridge of his nose. Unless you tell us the truth, they're not going to let you go. Fighting back is only going to hurt you, and it already has. Virgil grabbed Roman's wrist, pressing a damp rag to his cuts. Roman hissed as a sharp sting cut through his veins, thrashing against Virgil's grip. The thief didn't budge, and Roman cursed at his weakened state. A soft gauze was wrapped around his palm, preventing his wounds from reopening. His arm fell to his side as Virgil motioned for his other hand. Roman deeply wished to refuse, though he would soon gain an infection after such actions. He couldn't afford yet another force dragging away his strength, not when freedom had already been yanked from underneath him so easily. The damp cloth brought less of a sting the second time, only delivering a twinge of discomfort. Virgil was quite skillful at healing, something Roman would have never expected from the thief. Where did you learn to do this? He asked as Virgil tied off the ends of the gauze. I've had a lot of experience. Roman didn't have to ask further as Virgil gestured to a half-healed gash that ran just above his ankle. It was from the day on the roof, Roman recalled, the day he had come so close as to catch hold of Virgil's cloak. Virgil re-hid the wound with his pant leg and brought his hand up to push bangs out of his face. On his temple, a bruise was just beginning to form. Roman winced. He had done that. Not that he should be sorry. He couldn't be the one in the wrong. Still, this wasn't an injury caused from his own ignorance. He had done this on purpose. He spoke before he had time to think. Let me help. Virgil raised a brow. Why? Roman hesitated. Why was he doing this? Virgil was so obviously the enemy, yet he was offering to assist him. What Roman should be doing was taking notes of weaknesses like this to use at his advantage. Anything he could do to get out of here. Even still, Virgil had dressed his wounds regardless, something he doubted the other two would have done. It's not like I have anything better to do, he responded. Would you rather have to dress it yourself? Virgil's head gained a slight tilt, something the thief tended to do when suspicious. He pondered the offer a few moments, then sighed, handing Roman the remedy kit. "Fine," he said. The wooden box weighed heavily in Roman's hands. Several lengths of bandages lay inside, accompanied by creams in assorted jars. "Where is the ice?" Roman asked, shutting the box. The thief reached behind him, handing Roman a small bag. He was fortunate that the fall season had already brought forth snow to make ice in the first place. Virgil flinched as Roman pressed the cold surface to his temple, not expecting the instant chill. It was moments after, as the thief leaned into the cool sensation of the ice, that Roman grew hesitant. Was he growing weak, helping his nemesis like this? His mother sure would have thought so. But no, this was all just to build trust, at least until his ankle had fully healed. Neither Virgil, Janus, nor Remus had offered him any sympathy, so he was not about to return the favor. Roman tried to ignore the fact that said statement was blatantly untrue. The queen would warn him about falling for such tricks placed by villains, ones where they'd conceal their dark intentions behind sweet words and sympathetic actions. Roman couldn't help but wonder if that was what he was doing, concealing his betrayals with assistance. "All right, I think I've had enough," Virgil mumbled, pushing the ice pack away. "I'm not so sure about that," Roman said. "With that cold heart of yours, I figure the temperature will have to drop at least a couple more degrees." "You'll give me frostbite before I ever get there," Virgil smirked, but his gaze quickly hardened. "Don't actually try that." "I'm not the villain here. I wouldn't do such a thing." "Yet," Roman added silently. Virgil didn't need to know his plans of escape until he was far away from this place. "Sorry if I'm not so inclined to believe you after you held a shard of glass to my throat just last night." Roman's eyes narrowed. "I would have gotten away if you hadn't ruined everything." Virgil's head snapped up. His eyes narrowed. "I'm not the one who decided to run out into a pitch-black forest, Princey. This," he gestured to Roman's ankle, "is all because of you." Roman grit his teeth. "I did not ask to be taken. And I did not ask for royals like you to soil our lands. I wasn't so sure before, but Janus was right. You monarchs lie, suppress, and steal anything that you can use to cause destruction." "You dare accuse me of lying and stealing when you are nothing more than a wretched thief." Virgil froze. His fingers grasped around the hem of his cloak. His jaw clenched tight, though when he said nothing more, Roman knew he had struck a nerve. Good, he wanted to think. Let him suffer. That only proved Virgil's words further. His voice had become like that of the queen's, and it stabbed through him with a burning clarity. Roman pressed his thumbs into the sides of his temples. This place was ruining him. Or was he only realizing his actions because of his surroundings? That was something Roman couldn't stand to think about. "Why suddenly so quiet?" Virgil sneered, now sitting curled up with his chin on his knees. "Thinking of another way to insult me?" Roman didn't retort, not with all the thoughts racing through his head, not when his mother's words had burned like fire when he spoke. He had wanted Virgil to gape at what he had said, but it had felt so cruel. Roman had never wanted that. He was angered beyond belief, yet something about what he had spat at Virgil cut deeper, something that could only be labeled as a low blow, which tugged more as Roman was supposed to be noble. "You're right," he said finally. Virgil's lips twisted into a frown. "Are you trying to play me for a fool?" "Not anymore." Roman shifted so that his head now rested on his knees, the chain rattling mockingly along with him. "There may be imperfections, even dangerous ones within us royals, but that doesn't change the fact that by kidnapping me, you are no better. You can go back whenever you want. You just have to tell us what the kingdom is hiding. Roman fiddled with his sleeve, his lips pressed into a thin line. Don't you think I would tell you if I knew? And risk your kingdom losing its precious power over the oblivious? Virgil snarled. I don't believe you would do such a thing. He stormed to the door, slamming it shut with a final bang. Roman almost hadn't caught the hint of worry in Virgil's eyes after his statement. After all, who would believe one of the kingdom's own could be unaware? This has been Chapter 11 of Set Him Free. Thank you so much for listening, and I will see you next time for Chapter 12.